Have you ever been betrayed so deeply that your blood turned to ice? When everything you trusted most was crushed before your eyes, your career, your love, your very dignity, what would you do? I didn't run. I didn't hide. I swore I'd build an empire from the ashes they left behind. And now, standing atop my glass tower, watching their world crumble beneath me. I'm ready to tell you exactly how I did it. This is my story of how betrayal became my greatest weapon. My name is Claire Donovan, and 3 months ago, I had everything. At 32, I was the youngest senior strategist at Westbrook Media Group, one of Manhattan's most ruthless media conglomerates. My corner office on the 42nd floor overlooked Central Park, and every morning, I'd stand there with my black coffee, watching the city wake up beneath me, feeling like I'd finally made it. The promotion to creative director was practically mine. Richard Westbrook himself had pulled me aside at the company gala, his weathered hand on my shoulder, telling me I was the future of this company. I'd worked 70-hour weeks for 6 years, sacrificed friendships, missed family gatherings, all for this moment. The official announcement would come Friday. Ethan proposed that same week. We'd been together for 4 years, meeting at a financial conference where he'd charmed me with his knowledge of market analytics and that crooked smile that made him look boyish despite his Armani suit. Tuesday night, he took me to Le Bernardin, got down on one knee right there between the amuse-bouche and the first course. The ring was perfect, a 2-carat cushion cut that caught the candlelight like captured starfire. I said yes before he even finished asking. Wednesday morning, I walked into Westbrook with that ring on my finger, feeling invincible. My assistant, Jennifer, squealed when she saw it. My team gathered around my desk, admiring the diamond, congratulating me. Even Marcus Torres, my closest colleague and the only other person competing for the creative director position, hugged me and said he was happy for me. We'd been work friends for 3 years, grabbing drinks every Thursday, bitching about clients, sharing industry gossip. I trusted him. Thursday changed everything. I was called into Richard Westbrook's office at 9 a.m., but Richard wasn't alone. The entire board was there, their faces stone cold. Marcus sat in the corner, wouldn't meet my eyes. My laptop was open on the conference table, displaying emails I'd never seen before. "We're disappointed, Claire," Richard began, his voice carrying that deadly calm that preceded executions. "Corporate espionage is a serious accusation. The emails showed conversations between my account and representatives from our biggest competitor, Apex Communications. Detailed client strategies, campaign budgets, creative concepts, all bearing my digital signature, all sent from my IP address during hours I'd been in the office." I stood there, my mouth dry as sand, trying to process what was happening. "These aren't mine," I managed. "I would never." "The forensic IT report says otherwise." Marcus interrupted, finally looking at me. There was something in his eyes, not guilt, but triumph. "Claire, we found the secondary laptop in your office, the one you used to send these." "There was no secondary laptop. There never had been." "You need to leave," Richard said. "Security will escort you out. We won't press charges if you go quietly." The walk to the elevator was the longest of my life. 500 feet of open office space, every eye on me. Someone had already packed my desk into a cardboard box. Jennifer wouldn't look at me. My team turned away. The security guard's hand on my elbow felt like a brand. I called Ethan from the sidewalk, standing there in my Louboutins with a cardboard box of my professional life, watching through the glass as my former colleagues went about their day 42 floors above. He didn't answer. He didn't answer 6 more times. When I got home to our apartment in Tribeca, his things were gone. There was a note on the kitchen counter next to the keys he'd left behind. "I know what you did. Marcus told me everything. I can't marry someone I don't trust. I've transferred my part of the lease back to you. Don't contact me." I stood in that empty apartment, still holding the cardboard box, still wearing the ring that had meant everything 72 hours ago. The silence was deafening. My phone buzzed with notifications, LinkedIn connections severing ties, Industry newsletters somehow already reporting my resignation. Text messages from numbers I didn't recognize calling me a corporate spy, a thief, a whore. That's when I saw it. On my laptop, still logged into my personal email, was a sent message I hadn't written. Time stamped from that morning while I was in Westbrook's office. It was addressed to Ethan, from my account, confessing to the corporate espionage and admitting to an affair with a fictional client. They hadn't just destroyed my career. They destroyed everything, methodically, completely. I poured myself 3 fingers of whiskey, Ethan's bottle, the only thing he'd left behind, and stood at the window, looking out at the city that had just expelled me like a virus. My reflection stared back, designer suit now feeling like a costume, perfectly styled hair now disheveled, eyes that had been so confident this morning now hollow. But beneath the shock, beneath the humiliation, beneath the raw disbelief, something else was stirring, something cold and sharp and patient. They thought they'd ended me. They thought I'd disappear. Maybe leave the city, certainly leave the industry. They thought I'd break. They were wrong. The first week, I didn't leave the apartment. I sat on the floor of what used to be our bedroom, surrounded by bank statements, counting and recounting what I had left. $43,000 in savings. Everything I'd scraped together for our wedding, for our future. The apartment lease had 3 months left at $4,800 a month. My black Amex was frozen. Westbrook had revoked it along with my corporate accounts. The math was simple and brutal. I had maybe 6 months before I'd be completely broke. The refrigerator hummed with expensive food I couldn't taste. Dom Perignon sat unopened from our engagement celebration. I lived on coffee and rage. My phone became an instrument of torture. Every buzz brought fresh humiliation. Former clients sending curt messages saying they could no longer work with me. Headhunters who'd courted me for years suddenly ghosting my calls. My own mother, calling from Seattle, her voice tight with disappointment. "Claire, honey, what did you do?" "It's all over LinkedIn." The Seattle Times picked it up. By the second week, I had to move. The Tribeca apartment wasn't just expensive, it was a mausoleum of my former life. Every corner held a ghost. Ethan's coffee mug indent on the marble counter, the empty closet that still smelled like his cologne, the nail holes from the artwork we'd bought together at galleries in Chelsea. I found a studio in Queens. 600 square feet in a building that smelled like industrial cleaner and broken dreams. The radiator clanged like a dying animal. The view was a brick wall. After the movers left, I'd sold most of my furniture for cash. I sat on an air mattress in the empty space and laughed until I cried, then cried until I couldn't breathe. The industry whispers reached me through former colleagues brave enough to maintain contact. Marcus had been promoted to creative director. He'd already landed 2 of my biggest accounts. Apparently, they'd been told I'd been selling their data. Ethan was dating someone new, a 25-year-old influencer with 3 million followers who posted motivational quotes about removing toxic people from your life. The engagement ring I'd pawned for rent money was worth less than a third of what he'd claimed he paid. I started drinking, not socially, not for pleasure, but medicinally, to blur the edges of each day into the next. Gin at breakfast to stop my hands from shaking. Wine through the afternoon to quiet the voice in my head replaying every moment. Looking for signs I'd missed. Whiskey at night to sleep without dreaming of the life I'd lost. Rock bottom has a specific geography. For me, it was a Tuesday afternoon at a grocery store in Astoria. I was standing in the cereal aisle, holding a box of store-brand cornflakes, when I saw my reflection in the security mirror. Unwashed hair, yesterday's clothes, the kind of hollow eyes I used to see on subway platforms at 3 a.m. and quickly look away from. Behind me, 2 women were gossiping, their voices carrying over the muzak. "Did you hear about that woman from Westbrook? The one who sold all those company secrets?" "Claire something. Yeah, I heard she was sleeping with half her clients too. Marcus Torres said she even tried to frame him for it. Can you imagine? He was her friend." I left the cornflakes on the shelf and walked out. That night, I sat in my studio with the lights off, city noise filtering through thin walls. A couple fought upstairs. Someone's baby cried next door. Life went on around me while mine had stopped. But in that darkness, something shifted. I opened my laptop for the first time in weeks. The screen hurt my eyes, but I pushed through. I started searching. Every article about my downfall, every LinkedIn post, every industry blog that had covered the scandal. I read them all, cataloging the lies, noting the sources, tracking the timeline, and patterns emerged. The forensic IT report that condemned me. The firm that produced it had Marcus's college roommate as a senior partner. The competitor I'd supposedly sold secrets to. They'd hired 3 Westbrook employees the week after I was fired, all from Marcus's team. The client who'd first reported suspicious activity? They'd just signed a massive contract with Westbrook, negotiated by Marcus, at a rate 30% below market value. I stopped drinking that night, poured every bottle down the sink, and watched it swirl away like the last of my self-pity. They'd orchestrated this. Every detail, every move, every calculated destruction of my life had been planned. Marcus wanted my position. Ethan, God knows what Ethan had wanted. Maybe just out. Maybe he'd been bought. Maybe he'd never loved me at all. But they'd made one mistake. They'd left me alive. I stood at my single window, looking at that brick wall, and made myself a promise. Not to the city I could no longer see, not to the God I no longer believed in, but to myself. I would rise from this. I would build something they couldn't touch, couldn't steal, couldn't destroy. And when I was strong enough, when I was powerful enough, I would take everything from them. Not quickly, not messily, but with the same calculated precision they'd used on me. You want to play corporate warfare? I whispered to the brick wall, to the ghosts of my former life. Fine. But you should have made sure I was dead. The empire I would build would be forged from this anger, this pain, this absolute bottom, and it would rise from their ashes. The coffee shop on Roosevelt Avenue became my office. Not by choice. I couldn't afford WeWork or any respectable co-working space, but Lucky's Cafe had 3 things I needed: free Wi-Fi, cheap coffee refills, and an owner who didn't care if I sat there for 8 hours nursing a single cup. That's where I met Sophia Marks. She walked in during my 3rd week of haunting that corner table, wearing a wrinkled suit and the kind of exhausted expression I recognized from my mirror. She ordered a double espresso, slumped into the seat next to mine, and promptly started crying into her laptop. Bad day? I asked, because misery loves company and I was drowning in it. Bad year, she laughed bitterly. Just got fired from Westbrook's legal department. Apparently, questioning why they're burying sexual harassment complaints makes me not a team player. The name Westbrook hit me like ice water. You worked for Westbrook? 3 years in their legal cesspool. She looked at me properly for the first time. Wait, you're Claire Donovan. I tensed, ready for the accusations, the disgust. They fucked you over, she said instead. I processed the paperwork, that forensic report. I told them it looked fabricated. They transferred me to archives the next day, then found an excuse to fire me 2 weeks later. We talked until the cafe closed. Sophia had seen the underbelly of Westbrook, the NDAs, the buried lawsuits, the creative accounting that bordered on fraud. She'd kept copies of everything, a habit from law school that Westbrook's IT department hadn't caught because she'd used old-fashioned paper and a storage unit in Jersey. What are you planning? She asked as we stood on the sidewalk, Queens traffic roaring past. To build something better, to beat them at their own game. You'll need a lawyer, she said. I'll work for equity until you can pay me. That night, I started mapping the media landscape on my studio wall with post-its and string like some conspiracy theorist. But it wasn't conspiracy, it was opportunity. Westbrook and the other big agencies had gotten lazy, bloated. They ignored small businesses, considering them beneath notice. They charged Fortune 500 companies millions for campaigns that recycled the same tired strategies. Most importantly, they dismissed the growing Latino and Asian markets in Queens, Brooklyn, and the Bronx as not profitable enough. I knew better. Those neighborhoods were gold mines of family businesses ready to scale. Immigrant entrepreneurs with brilliant products but no platform. Communities with purchasing power that mainstream agencies ignored. I started with bodegas. Jose Martinez ran 3 successful stores in Jackson Heights, but had no online presence. I pitched him in broken Spanish and pure passion, offering to build his social media strategy for $500, my rent money. He laughed at my pronunciation, but hired me when I showed him how his competitor was stealing his customers through Instagram ads. Word spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. The lady with the dirty blonde hair who used to be somebody big would make your business famous for prices that weren't insulting. I charged what they could afford, learned their stories, ate at their tables. My Spanish improved. My understanding of real business, not corporate theater, grew. Within a month, I had 12 clients. Small money, $500 here, $750 there. But it was enough to eat and keep the lights on. More importantly, it was working. Jose's foot traffic increased 40%. The Korean bakery on Northern Boulevard had lines around the block after my TikTok campaign. The Salvadoran restaurant in Corona got featured in Time Out New York. Sophia incorporated us properly, Iron Flare Media, LLC. The name came to me during another sleepless night. Iron for strength, flare for visibility, both forged in fire. We need a team, Sophia said, reviewing our contracts in my studio, now cluttered with client files and sample products. I know freelancers, good people Westbrook and others burned. She was right, I couldn't scale alone, but I also couldn't afford anyone. Equity, I said. We offer equity and the chance to build something that isn't rotten at its core. Our first hire was James Liu, a brilliant digital strategist who'd been blackballed from Madison Avenue for refusing to whitewash a campaign. Then came Maria Santos, a copywriter whose ideas had been stolen so many times at her previous agency that she'd started watermarking her brainstorms. Derek Washington, a graphic designer who'd quit Westbrook the day after I was fired, disgusted by what he'd witnessed. We met in my studio. 5 people crowded around a folding table I'd found on the street. The radiator clanged. The walls were thin enough to hear 3 different languages from neighboring apartments. We had nothing but laptops, determination, and the shared experience of being chewed up by an industry that consumed talent and discarded humanity. They'll try to destroy us, Derek said, sketching logo concepts on napkins. Westbrook, Apex, all of them. We're a threat. Let them try, I said, pinning our first strategy brief to the wall. We're not competing for their clients. We're building a new game entirely. But even as I said it, I knew it was only partially true. Yes, we were building something new, something better, but I was also building something else, leverage. Every client we won, every campaign that succeeded, every talented person who joined us was another piece on my chessboard. Marcus thought he'd ended my career. Ethan thought I'd disappear into obscurity. Westbrook thought they'd erased me. They had no idea what they'd actually created. A woman with nothing left to lose and everything to gain. To Iron Flare. Sophia raised her coffee cup in a toast. To revenge, I thought, but said aloud, to the Empire. We clinked our mismatched mugs in my queen's studio. 5 outcasts planning to revolutionize an industry that had tried to destroy us. The seed was planted. Now it was time to grow. 6 months in, we were surviving but not thriving. My studio had become a 24-hour war room. Client presentations on the air mattress at 3 a.m., strategy sessions fueled by bodega coffee and pure spite. Maria slept on my floor twice a week rather than commute to the Bronx. James coded campaigns on 3 laptops simultaneously, muttering in Mandarin when the free software crashed. Our client roster had grown to 37 small businesses, but small meant small money. After splitting revenue 5 ways and paying basic expenses, I was taking home less than I'd made as an intern. My diet consisted of dollar pizza and whoever's leftover client samples. Korean face masks don't provide much nutrition, but Dominican empanadas do. We need bigger fish, Sophia said, reviewing our financials on a spreadsheet that looked like a crime scene. These numbers won't sustain us past winter. She was right. Con Edison had already sent 2 warning notices. My landlord left increasingly aggressive post-its on my door. We were bootstrapping on fumes and determination. That's when I started studying Westbrook's client losses. Every agency bleeds accounts. It's the nature of the business. But I knew Westbrook's weak spots. They're difficult clients. The accounts Marcus couldn't handle because he lacked the patience I'd once had. Brennan's Boutique Hotels was hemorrhaging market share to Airbnb. They'd been with Westbrook for 10 years, but their latest campaign was tone-deaf, featuring yacht parties when travelers wanted authentic experiences. I'd worked on their account briefly, knew their CMO, Patricia Brennan, valued brutal honesty over ass-kissing. I called her directly. No email, no LinkedIn message. Her personal cell I still had memorized. "Claire Donovan," she said after 3 rings. "You've got balls calling me." "I've got a campaign that will save your quarter," I replied. "Give me 15 minutes. She gave me an hour. In her Manhattan office, I pitched like my life depended on it, because it did. Local influencer partnerships, experiential marketing targeting millennials, a complete digital overhaul focusing on sleep like a local instead of luxury for less. "Westbrook says you're poison," Patricia said when I finished. "Westbrook is charging you $3 million for campaigns that aren't working. And you? $300,000, results in 60 days, or you pay nothing." She laughed, actually laughed. "You're either brilliant or desperate." "Both." We got the account. The team worked 18-hour days. Derek designed until his eyes bled. Maria wrote copy that made boutique hotels sound like religious experiences. James built social strategies that had travel bloggers fighting for exclusive access. I lived on protein bars and the fear of failure. But we delivered. Bookings up 35% in 60 days. Patricia paid in full and signed a year contract. Word spreads fast in Manhattan. If Claire Donovan could save Brennan's, maybe she wasn't the pariah everyone claimed. My phone started ringing with blocked numbers, CMOs testing the waters, marketing directors tired of agency bloat. That's when Marcus Reed appeared. Not my Marcus. Marcus Torres was still playing king at Westbrook. This Marcus was different, older, sharper, with the kind of fuck you money that came from selling 2 startups to Google. He walked into Lucky's Cafe where I was stress-eating a 3rd bagel, sat down without invitation, and slid a check across the table. $200,000, he said. "Angel investment." "Why?" "Because Westbrook tried to destroy me 5 years ago. Same playbook, fabricated evidence, character assassination, the works. I was developing a programmatic advertising platform that would have cut agencies out of media buying. They buried me. And you want revenge? I want to watch them burn, but I'll settle for watching you outcompete them." I stared at the check. It was more money than I'd seen since my Westbrook days. It meant a real office, actual salaries, proper software, maybe even health insurance. "What's the catch?" "No catch. 20% equity, board advisory role, and you use part of it to hire Rebecca Chen, the best forensic accountant in the city. She'll find where Westbrook's bodies are buried." "Why do I need forensic accounting?" Marcus smiled, cold and knowing. "Because when you're ready to destroy them, and you will be, you'll want ammunition that's legal and devastating. Revenge is a dish best served with documentation." I took the check. We moved into a real office in Long Island City, not Manhattan, but you could see it from the windows. The team cried when they saw actual desks, a conference room, a coffee machine that didn't require exact change. We hired 3 more people, all refugees from toxic agencies. Rebecca Chen started digging into Westbrook's finances with the dedication of an archaeologist hunting for cursed treasures. Iron Flare Media was no longer just surviving. We were building, growing, becoming dangerous. Late one night, I stood at our office window, Manhattan glittering across the East River. 6 months ago, I'd been broken on a Queens floor. Now I had a team, clients, momentum. The ember of revenge I'd been nursing was growing into something hotter, more focused. My phone buzzed. An industry newsletter: Westbrook loses 3rd major client this quarter. Good, but not enough. Derek joined me at the window. You know they're watching us now, right? Westbrook, Marcus Torres, all of them. Let them watch. They'll come for us. I thought about the evidence Rebecca was gathering, the clients we were winning, the empire rising from nothing. They already came for me. They shot their shot. Now it's my turn. The reflection in the window showed someone I barely recognized. Sharper, harder. Forged by fire into something dangerous. Claire Donovan was dead. What stood in her place was something else entirely. An entrepreneur, a survivor, a weapon aimed at Westbrook's heart. Year 2 hit different. We weren't scraping anymore, we were hunting. The office hummed with controlled chaos. 23 employees now, all handpicked from the wreckage of toxic agencies. Our client list read like a who's who of companies Westbrook had ignored or insulted. Tech startups run by women, sustainable fashion brands, Black-owned restaurant chains expanding nationally. Revenue had crossed $8 million. We were still microscopic compared to Westbrook's $100 million billings, but we were growing at a rate that made industry newsletters take notice. I'd changed too. Gone were the panic attacks and dollar pizza. I wore designer suits again, bought secondhand but impeccably tailored. I ran 5 miles every morning along the East River, pushing my body until the burn in my lungs matched the fire in my chest. Therapy twice a week to keep the rage productive rather than destructive. I needed to be sharp, controlled, strategic. The invitation came on a Tuesday. The American Marketing Awards, Manhattan's most prestigious industry event, every year. Westbrook swept the major categories, every year. Marcus Torres held court like a king among peasants. And this year, Iron Flare Media was nominated for Best Emerging Agency. It's a trap, Sophia warned, reviewing the invitation in our conference room. They want to humiliate you publicly. Or they're scared, James countered. We just landed Velocity Sports. That was supposed to be Westbrook's sure thing. Velocity Sports had been our biggest win yet, a billion-dollar athletic wear company looking to challenge Nike. They'd been days from signing with Westbrook when their CEO, Damon Wright, called me directly. I heard you're the one who actually wrote the campaigns Marcus Torres takes credit for. He'd said, I don't kiss and tell. I'm offering you $5 million to prove it. We'd won the pitch by doing something Westbrook never would, telling Velocity their brand was stale, their messaging outdated, their influencer strategy targeting the wrong demographics. Then we'd shown them how to fix it. Brutal honesty wrapped in brilliant strategy. Marcus Torres had personally called me after the announcement. First time I'd heard his voice in 2 years. Congratulations, he'd said, voice dripping artificial sweetener. Enjoy it while it lasts. Marcus, I'd replied, matching his tone. I'm just getting started. Now, staring at the awards invitation, I knew I had to go. Not just attend, dominate. We're all going, I announced. Full team, designer outfits. We're not sneaking in the back door. We're walking through the front like we own the place. The night of the awards, I stood before my bathroom mirror, applying red lipstick with surgical precision. The dress was black, architectural, impossible to ignore. A Gabriella Hearst I'd found at a luxury consignment shop, altered to fit like liquid shadow. My hair pulled back severely, showcasing cheekbones that had sharpened during my year in hell. I looked like what I'd become, weaponized ambition in designer heels. The Capitale venue glowed with calculated elegance. Every major agency was represented, the room thick with ego and champagne. Heads turned as we entered. Whispers followed our path to table 23, back of the room. Clear message about our place in the hierarchy. I felt him before I saw him. Marcus Torres, holding court near the stage, surrounded by Westbrook executives. He'd gained weight, his smile wider, but his eyes harder. When our gazes met across the room, he raised his champagne glass in mock salute. Next to him stood Ethan. I hadn't expected that punch to the gut. He looked exactly the same, that calculated casualness. The watch I'd bought him for his 30th birthday. The blonde on his arm was younger, prettier, emptier. She laughed at something he whispered, the sound carrying like breaking glass. You good? Derek murmured beside me. Perfect. I lied, then made it true through sheer will. The awards began. Westbrook won the first 3 categories, Marcus accepting with speeches about integrity and excellence that made me taste bile. But then, Best Campaign, Digital Innovation, Iron Flare Media for Velocity Sports. The room went silent as I walked to the stage. My heels clicked against marble, each step a declaration. I accepted the award, leaned into the microphone, and smiled directly at Marcus. This award belongs to my team, who prove every day that talent and integrity aren't mutually exclusive. To our clients, who value truth over spin, and to everyone who's been told they're not good enough, not connected enough, not willing to play dirty enough, we're building something better. Join us. The applause was scattered but genuine. I saw faces I recognized, people still trapped at Westbrook, at Apex, at all the agencies that chewed up souls for profit. Best Emerging Agency, Iron Flare Media. This time, the walk felt different. Victory tasted like expensive champagne and vindication. In my peripheral vision, I saw Richard Westbrook himself, his face a masterclass in contained fury. 2 years ago, I lost everything, I said into the microphone, abandoning my prepared speech. Career, reputation, faith in an industry I devoted my life to. But destruction teaches you something valuable, how to build foundations that can't be shaken. Iron Flare Media isn't just an agency. It's proof that you can succeed without sacrificing your soul. That brilliance beats backstabbing, that the future of this industry isn't in corner offices built on lies, but in conference rooms where truth is the only currency. I looked directly at Marcus, then Ethan, then Richard Westbrook. We're not competing with the old guard. We're replacing them. The room erupted, some applause, some gasps, plenty of phones recording what would definitely go viral by morning. Walking back to our table, I passed their section. Marcus grabbed my wrist, his grip too tight to be friendly. Enjoy your moment, he hissed. I destroyed you once. I'll do it again. I leaned close enough to smell his fear beneath the cologne. You tried to kill me, Marcus. Congratulations. You created something worse. You created someone with nothing to lose and everything to prove. And I'm coming for everything you think is yours. I pulled free, collected my team, and we left through the front door, heads high, hardware in hand. In the limo back to Queens, my phone exploded, client inquiries, partnership proposals, interview requests. Iron Flare Media was no longer emerging. We'd arrived, but this wasn't the victory. This was just the announcement. The real war was about to begin. The morning after the awards, Rebecca walked into my office with a banker's box and the expression of someone who'd found buried treasure in a graveyard. 3 years of forensic accounting, she said, setting the box on my desk with ceremonial weight. Every suspicious transaction, every doctored invoice, every SEC violation Westbrook thought they'd buried. I opened the first folder. Wire transfers to offshore accounts. Inflated billing that bordered on fraud. Client funds diverted to personal projects. And at the center of it all, Marcus Torres's signature, again and again. This is a federal case, I breathed. Multiple federal cases. But here's the beautiful part. Rebecca pulled out a specific document. Remember Ethan's new girlfriend, the influencer? She's being paid by Westbrook. Monthly retainer, hidden as social media consulting. Started the week before you were fired. The room tilted. They paid her to date him. Or paid her to be visible with him. Either way, it's documented. $30,000 a month for reputation management services. I stared at the proof, feeling something cold and precise click into place. This wasn't just betrayal, it was conspiracy. We can't just dump this publicly, Sophia said, reviewing the documents. We need strategy. Precision. She was right. Sloppy revenge would make me look bitter. Strategic dismantling would make me look brilliant. Phase 1, the clients. I personally called every major Westbrook client not to pitch, but to express concern. I've heard troubling things about financial irregularities. As someone who used to work there, I wanted to make sure your accounts are being handled properly. You might want to audit your invoices. I never accused, never provided specifics. Just planted seeds of doubt in soil already fertile with suspicion. CMOs started asking uncomfortable questions. CFOs demanded forensic audits. 3 clients found discrepancies within a week. Phase 2. The talent. Derek designed an anonymous website, westbrooktruth.com, where employees could share experiences. We seeded it with carefully redacted documents, enough to prove legitimacy without legal exposure. Within 48 hours, dozens of stories poured in. Harassment, wage theft, stolen ideas, destroyed careers. The site went viral in industry circles. Westbrook Truth trended for 3 days. Phase 3, Ethan. This one was personal. I had James trace the influencer's payments through shell companies back to a Westbrook slush fund. Then I had an old friend, a gossip columnist at Page 6, over for drinks. Hypothetically, I said, sliding her a folder. If someone discovered a major agency was paying influencers to date specific people for image management, would that be newsworthy? Hypothetically, she replied, eyes gleaming, that would be front page. The story broke on a Wednesday. Bought love, marketing giants' shocking dating manipulation exposed. Ethan's name was all over it. The influencer dumped him via Instagram story, calling him a pathetic pawn. His phone number got leaked. His LinkedIn became a war zone of mockery. But I wasn't done with him yet. I scheduled a meeting at his office, telling his assistant it was about a potential campaign. He went pale when I walked in. Designer suit sharp as a blade, success radiating from every gesture. Claire. He stood, uncertain. I didn't expect. Sit down, Ethan. Something in my voice made him obey. I know about the money they paid her. I know about the email they made you send. I know you got a promotion and a bonus for helping destroy me. His hands shook. I can explain. No. You'll listen. Westbrook is under federal investigation. The FBI will be calling you soon. You can cooperate fully. Tell them everything about Marcus's schemes. Or you can go down with the ship. Choose wisely. Claire, please, I loved you. No, you didn't. Love doesn't sell itself for a corner office. Love doesn't watch someone burn and warm its hands on the flames. I stood to leave, then turned back. That ring you bought me? The one you said cost $40,000? I had it appraised when I pawned it. $6,000? Ethan, even your love came at a discount. Phase 4, Marcus. This required precision. Rebecca had found the smoking gun. Marcus had been embezzling client funds to finance a side venture, a competing agency he planned to launch after destroying Westbrook from within. He wasn't just corrupt, he was a corporate parasite. I sat on this information for 2 weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. It came when Westbrook announced Marcus as their new CEO, Richard Westbrook, stepping down amidst the unfounded allegations swirling around the company. The announcement party was scheduled for Friday night, a desperate attempt at reputation management. Thursday afternoon. I sent everything to the FBI, the SEC, and the Manhattan DA simultaneously. I also sent copies to every major business journalist in the city. Friday morning, as Marcus was probably picking out his celebration suit, federal agents raided Westbrook's offices. The footage of him being led out in handcuffs, past the cameras he'd thought would capture his triumph, was pure poetry. But the masterstroke was the press release I issued that same afternoon. Iron Flare Media offers employment to all Westbrook staff affected by criminal investigation. We believe in second chances for those who operated with integrity. 60% of Westbrook's employees applied within a week. We hired the best 12, including Jennifer, my former assistant, who cried when I called her personally. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I knew it was wrong, but I was scared. I know, I said. Come build something better. By month's end, Westbrook Media Group had lost 17 major clients. Their CEO was facing federal charges, and their stock had plummeted 70%. Industry publications called it the Westbrook collapse and credited aggressive competition from emerging agencies like Iron Flare as a contributing factor. Only I knew it wasn't competition. It was revenge, served at exactly the right temperature. The collapse accelerated like a building demolition. Controlled, inevitable, spectacular. Marcus's arrest triggered a domino effect. Federal investigators found more than embezzlement. They uncovered years of systemic fraud. Client after client came forward with evidence of overcharging, false metrics, campaigns that never ran but were billed in full. The FBI set up a dedicated hotline. The Southern District of New York assigned 3 prosecutors to the case. I watched it all from my corner office, a real one now. 41st floor of a Long Island City tower with floor-to-ceiling windows facing Manhattan. Iron Flare had expanded to the entire floor. 150 employees and growing. We'd absorbed so many Westbrook refugees that people joked we were Westbrook 2.0, now with ethics. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Ms. Donovan, this is Richard Westbrook. I let silence stretch between us, savoring his discomfort. I know you're behind this, he finally said, voice raw with defeat. Behind what, Richard? Your company's federal investigation? That was Marcus. Your client exodus? That's the free market. Your reputation in ruins? That's karma. I want to meet. Why would I agree to that? Because I have something you want. Against every instinct, I agreed. We met at the Yale Club. His choice, old power trying to assert dominance through tradition. He looked destroyed. The commanding presence that had once terrified junior employees was gone, replaced by a hollow-eyed ghost in a $5,000 suit. They're seizing everything, he said without preamble. Personal assets, properties, even my art collection. My wife left. My children won't return my calls. And I know it was you, the precision, the timing, the poetic justice of it all. You orchestrated this perfectly. I sipped my water, giving him nothing. I want to apologize, he continued. For what we did to you, it was Marcus's idea, but I signed off on it. I let him destroy you because I thought you were getting too powerful. Too fast. You reminded me of myself when I was young, and that terrified me. Your apology means nothing to me. I know, but this might. He slid a USB drive across the table. Every email, every document, every recording from the plan to destroy you, including conversations with Ethan about his role. Take it to court, clear your name completely. Sue us for everything we're worth, though that's not much anymore. What do you want in return? Nothing. I've lost everything already. This is just atonement, I suppose. I took the drive. It doesn't absolve you. I know. That afternoon, Ethan was arrested for conspiracy to commit fraud. The evidence on Richard's drive was damning. Emails where Ethan negotiated his price for betraying me, recordings of him laughing about my pathetic trust in him. He'd been paid $200,000 and a promise of business connections. I didn't feel satisfaction watching his perp walk on the news, just a cold finality, like closing a chapter written in someone else's blood. The real crescendo came Friday. Westbrook Media Group, once valued at $2 billion, filed for bankruptcy. The building they'd owned for 40 years would be auctioned. Their clients were gone, absorbed by competitors, many by Iron Flare. Their reputation was radioactive waste. I called an all-hands meeting that afternoon. My entire company gathered in our largest conference room, champagne already waiting. 3 years ago, I began, looking at faces that had become family. I was destroyed by an industry that mistook cruelty for strength. Today, that company no longer exists. But we're not celebrating their destruction. We're celebrating what we built from their ashes. Iron Flare Media is now the 15th largest agency in New York. We have $200 million in confirmed contracts for next year. We've won every major industry award. And we did it without sacrificing a single principle. The room erupted in applause, but I wasn't finished. Effective Monday. We're implementing profit sharing for all employees. We're establishing a legal fund for anyone in our industry facing retaliation for speaking truth. And we're creating a scholarship program for students from backgrounds the old guard would have ignored. We're not just replacing the old system, we're proving a better one is possible. That night, I stood alone in my office as the celebration continued outside. Manhattan glittered before me, the same view I'd once had from Westbrook, but different now. Earned, not given. Built, not stolen. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Congratulations, you won. Marcus. He was writing from federal detention, awaiting trial. 20 years minimum, his lawyer had told the press. I deleted the message without responding. He was wrong. This wasn't about winning. It was about becoming something they never could have destroyed. Inevitable. A knock at my door. Sophia entered with 2 glasses of champagne. You did it, she said. You burned them to the ground. No, I corrected, accepting the glass. They burned themselves. I just made sure to build something beautiful from their ashes. We toasted in silence, watching the city lights. Somewhere out there, in a federal cell. Marcus Torres was learning what bottom really looked like. Somewhere else. Ethan was probably calling lawyers he could no longer afford. And Richard Westbrook was sitting in an empty mansion, surrounded by the ghosts of an empire he'd built on others' bones. But here, in this tower built on truth and talent and unbreakable will, the future was being written. And I was holding the pen. 5 years have passed since that morning I was escorted from Westbrook's building like a criminal. 5 years since I lost everything I thought mattered. 5 years since I learned that rock bottom isn't an ending, it's a foundation. Today, Iron Flare Media occupies 3 floors in a Manhattan tower. Not Long Island City anymore. We moved to the same neighborhood where Westbrook once ruled, into a building that overlooks their old offices, now converted to luxury condos. Sometimes I stand at my window, coffee in hand, and remember the woman who once stood 42 floors up, thinking she'd made it. She hadn't even started. We're not the 15th largest agency anymore. We're the 3rd. Forbes called us the Phoenix of Madison Avenue. Harvard Business School wrote a case study on our rise. But those aren't the victories that matter. What matters is Jennifer, my former assistant, now our creative director, sending her daughter to Columbia, debt-free. It's Derek, building campaigns that win Cannes Lions while maintaining his sanity and marriage. It's the 237 employees who own shares in this company, who'll never be betrayed by those in power because they are the power. Marcus Torres gets out next month. Minimum security, early release for cooperation. His lawyer reached out. Marcus wants to meet. To close the chapter properly. I didn't respond. He's not even a footnote in my story anymore, just punctuation on a sentence I've already finished writing. Ethan disappeared after his suspended sentence. Last I heard, he was teaching English in Southeast Asia, probably spinning stories about the successful life he left behind by choice. I hope he's found peace. I found something better. Indifference. Richard Westbrook died last winter. Heart attack in his sleep. The obituary said. His funeral was small. Quiet. I sent flowers. White lilies with a card that read only, rest. Not in peace, not in power. Just rest. Even titans deserve that much. But this isn't a story about them anymore. It never really was. Last week, a young woman came to my office, 26, recently fired from a major agency after reporting harassment. Blacklisted, broken. She sat in the same chair where I'd once interviewed desperate clients for $500 contracts. And she said the words I'd once thought, I've lost everything. No, I told her, offering her a job on the spot. You've been freed from everything that was holding you back. She started crying. I let her. God knows I'd cried enough tears to fill the Hudson when I was rebuilding. But I also told her what no one had told me. The empire you build from ashes will be stronger than anything built on marble. Trust me, I know. This morning, I gave my last interview about the Westbrook collapse. The journalist asked if I had any regrets. Just one, I said. I wish I'd been destroyed sooner. She looked confused, so I explained. Comfort makes you soft, success makes you complacent, but betrayal? Betrayal makes you unstoppable. They didn't ruin me, they revealed me. They showed me who I really was when everything else was stripped away. And who was that? Someone who could build an empire from ashes. Someone who could take the worst thing that ever happened and transform it into the best. Someone who refused to be a victim when she could be a victor instead. Tonight, there's another industry gala. Another awards ceremony where we'll probably sweep multiple categories. I'll wear another architectural dress, give another speech about integrity and innovation. But I won't mention revenge or destruction or the bodies buried beneath our foundation. Because that's not what this story's about anymore. It's about the after. The empire that rises. The proof that sometimes, the best revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you. It's becoming someone they could never have imagined. Building something they could never have created. Reaching heights they could never touch. They thought they were burning me alive. They were right. But phoenixes are born from fire, and empires can rise from ashes. I'm Claire Donovan. I was betrayed, destroyed, reborn, and rebuilt. My empire didn't just rise from their ashes, it soared above them. Untouchable and eternal. And this is only the beginning. Thank you so much for listening to my story of betrayal, revenge, and ultimate triumph. If you made it this far, you understand that sometimes our greatest disasters become our greatest opportunities. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. Are you in your car during a commute? At home unwinding? Maybe you're going through your own betrayal and needed to hear that it gets better. It gets magnificent. Please subscribe to the channel for more stories of unbreakable spirits and unstoppable comebacks. And share your thoughts below. What would you have done in Claire's position? Your story matters too.